Well, this is video 4 in a 4-part series on the narcissist and empath dynamic and relationship. The first part was talking about the narcissist. The second was really focused on the empath. The third is sort of like that final moment when you're being discarded by the narcissist and the empath is taking back her power. This video is really stepping outside of that interpersonal relationship and really looking at the society, at the collective, and seeing how is it that we are playing out these roles, this narcissistic abuse, this 1% of the population that has all the money, that seems to be very reflectant of the 1% of the population that are sociopaths and not wired for empathy, to have compassion, to care, and to really want to be there for others. That we're not talking about those kinds of people. We're talking about a different breed of beings. So within our collective consciousness, I see a lot of things. I see a lot of self-serving interests. I think my biggest example of this is, in my biggest beef right now, is in regard to social justice. This idea of inclusion and diversity and being a social justice, warrior is the message right now of the world. And I want to say firsthand that yes, of course, we all want diverse workplaces. We all want to go into places where there are diverse experiences and cultures that we can experience. Of course, we want to include everybody who wants to be included. As a society, as a whole, that makes sense for us. But what doesn't make sense is that we're expecting all of the people that want to be included to be like us, to be good empaths, to be good people who care about other people, to be people who really stand for the right thing. That empathy is being stepped on by several political groups and agendas and legislative attempts right now that are to push laws, to push policy. That is what we think a good thing. We think this is about really, bringing a broad diversity of experiences into the same room. The problem with this is that there are so many demands. Look at me, look at me. There's what I call the victim Olympics. It's like this constant comparison of who has it worse, which identity. I mean, I wonder about all of us who have, women with minority races or, and sexual orientations that are different and come, from a religious subset group. So, I mean, there's so many different categories that we can find ourselves in. The problem is that everyone feels like they're more deserving. Everybody feels like they're the ones that need the attention, that they're the ones, their needs, wants, and desires need to be put at the forefront of everyone's attention. They're very selective, though, in their prejudices. It's like, but we act as if it's the same. So to give you an example of what I mean, it's like we within our, like if it was a white person talking shit on a black person, we would say, oh, that's prejudice. But when the roles are reversed and the words are reversed, it's okay. It's okay because they're just expressing their pain. They're just expressing their trauma. This other person may not have been a part of that, but they have to take it. They have to take it, and they should take it, and in fact should step aside to let these people do whatever they want, I guess. So I think it's really important that we as a society start to look at not race and sex and religious orientation and sexual orientation and all of these things and demand that because we identify as such or because we are indeed those things, that our needs are more important than someone else's. I just think it's old school. I think it's capitalism has taught us that our needs and our self-gratification is just so important. And I just am seeing now that there was a time and a place for, of course, people's needs outside of the outliers' needs to be seen and heard. We needed that. We needed to know that existed. We needed to know how to heal it. We needed to know how to get in front of it. And I'm not going to suggest that it's not still needed, because I do believe that it's needed. However, I think that it's gotten completely out of control. One example of this is like when, Christians and Mormons were sent on missions. And that mission was a rite of passage for those young adults. It's an important part of their ministry to go out and to serve and to be in the world. And that's a very noble idea, and it's a very noble way of moving in the world. And because people got really hung up on their self-righteousness in regard to, all the good that they were doing in the world, they can't stop doing it. So they, are oversaturating people in cities and small countries with supplies that they don't need, making them dependent on those goods versus learning how to grow their own food or to create their own resources. So while it was a very good thing to start with, it's turning into something that maybe isn't so good, because we don't know when to stop. And I just believe that right now there's a lot of narcissism and interest groups, small interest groups, who are constantly battling for attention, constantly battling to pay attention to them, to their needs, their laws, their flag, their, everything, their education. And what that does is it puts everybody else in the sidelines, wondering like, where do we all fit into all of this? Which is how those people felt, maybe not them specifically, but their ancestors had felt at one point, right? So do they really want that for the other people? And so being able to step into the other shoe and just be like, can't we all just live together? Can't we all just live cohesively? Without all this me, my needs, my feelings. I mean, everybody's feelings are getting hurt these days. Everybody has, something to say about something. And I believe that is a root of narcissism. I mean, do we need every single person's voice? I'm not sure. I don't think that we have to listen to every single person's voice. That's why we have the pleasure of, stopping here at any point to listen to something else or to move on. But we keep demanding it. We keep putting these social justice movements and ideas in front of people's face. In fact, we've even cut off some of the organizations that we were working with in order for us to have now our own agendas. And I see this in circles, primarily with women. I'm seeing so much me, and women don't lead that way. Women, we lead together. We sit at a circle, we all come up with ideas, we all put our ideas into the circle, and we choose the one that's best for the idea, movement, concept, whatever it is, not for individuals' needs, not for individuals' businesses, not for individuals' pocketbooks. And we just keep seeing that. We just keep seeing, show up for me and my money. It's a we, but it's all going to me. That kind of narcissism has to stop. Aren't we all getting tired of it? Aren't you tired of having to sell your friends? Aren't you tired of having to put your ideas in front of everybody else? Aren't you tired of having to brand everything? Aren't you tired of having to constantly beg and peck and fight for attention and algorithms to flow your way and that attention? Would it be okay if your life really wasn't so big? What if it wasn't as glamorous as you imagined it to be? What if it just meant washing the dishes and taking care of children? What if it just meant growing your own food, chilling on the beach? What if it meant something magnificent, like just writing a book, not 20, And I feel like this narcissistic need to constantly doing and attention seeking is run its course. It's destroying us. It's destroying our planet. It's destroying our cultures. It's destroying our relationships. It's constant competition with one another. It's constant taking energy from each other. It's old school, It's like the old way that we operated in a 3D world. And we now have all of this intuition and understanding and spiritual insights and wisdom that we are bringing to the planet at this time. And it's really like, okay, for us just to settle into that, to let more time pass between things, more time pass, before your next post on social, or before you turn on the TV, or before you start to distract with music, like just taking more time to just be, simple, and less of this striving and this competing and this like struggle. It's rooted in narcissism. It's rooted in self-interest. It's rooted in staying the same, but asking for change. So we're all talking about change. We know a change will come, but it really is going to start when we start looking at ourselves. How are we showing up for the collective? How are we showing up for the world? How are we showing up for the whole? And how are we showing up for ourselves every single day? These are important questions to be asking. But if you're just showing up for yourself, your days are numbered. Your days are numbered because so many of us now are so intuitive, and we see through the bullshit. We see through the lies. We see Trump on TV and we're like, yo, bro, we know you're a liar. And, he's also done some really great things. So we don't get to just sum them up by the totality of their bad behavior. A lot of them are very good people. Whether or not they choose to use their power in a good way, in a way that's in benefit to, the greater good or not, is really their choice. But we don't have to get in the way of it. We don't have to be their supply. We don't have to wait around for them to change and become something better, because they really have no desire to. They don't have a reason to. They'll just move on to the next one. So we make these videos and educate our sisters about these patterns, these people, these sociopaths, and how we as empaths can find ourselves in those situations. What they look like. I'm holding small groups to talk about these things in more intimate setting, to really look at personal relationships, to see if this is something that maybe you're dealing with in your own life. There's more information on my website, www.unleashingher.com, so please check that out. But we as a tribe of women in a sisterhood, telling the truth to one another and processing all this bullshit through, grieving it and creating action plans for our lives is really the way forward. And I invite you in to learn, to be inspired, and to grow with us. So thanks for being here and watching this series. Namaste.